You'll often find beauty in a man's front garden, but the singing splendour of Lincoln Cathedral, here outside Bill Talbot's modest home at Measham in Leicestershire, is a real surprise. Someone gave a sack of cement to this 60-year-old miner and started him off on constructional work he never dreamed he could do. The bombshell of Coventry Cathedral, immortalised on a council estate. Canterbury, and this is a tale of patience and precision. They say there's something of a sculptor in every miner who hacks away at the coalface. And certainly one old miner has found a way of converting flat photographs and sketches into three-dimensional loveliness. The beauty of his own little village church hasn't escaped the eye of the old miner who's relived the cathedral builder's dream so vividly that he captures the imagination of passers-by and lifts them to heights that only the steeplejack normally knows.
Down to earth again, but rather more in the realms of imagination, how's this for a splendid exhibit of bird life? Topiary, as this form of tree shaping is called, is of course quite common in England. But in the tiny Gloucestershire hamlet of Glasshouse, and that really is its name, the visitor will find something really original. That green cottage is probably the most remarkable example of topiary in the country. It is in fact a yew tree clipped into shape by a Norwegian seaman who had been stranded here at the outbreak of the last war. He worked nearby as a forester and shaped the tree as a token of his affection for the locals for their kindness to him. Ever since, it's been kept in order by Mr. Walter Llewellyn, in whose garden it stands. Remember, there are no foundations for the house other than its own branches. Come to think of it, it's a cheap way of building. Precious little maintenance involved, and you could buy them for a snip, so to speak. Mr. Llewellyn actually uses the tree as a summer house. It leaves other types in the shade.
The scene is at Southbourne on the south coast of England, but the shells in this shell garden come from all over the world. There are shells from California, shells from Portugal, exotic pearly shells from Japan. George Howard, who built this shell garden, was a coal miner in South Wales, who one day ran away to sea. He started collecting seashells, and when he had 100,000 of them, he started to build this strange garden. He's been building it for 17 years, and he's building it still. There are more than 1 million shells on this half-acre site. You can walk around the garden freely without any fee, but George Howard likes you to leave a few coppers for charity. He collects for the spastics and old people's dinners, for cancer research, and for the People's Dispensary for sick animals. Though he has sunk a fortune in this garden, he flatly refuses to make a penny out of it himself. He's got the biggest shell in Britain, a giant clam shell from the Philippines. It cost him £50 to have it transported here. Mostly, he brings his own shells back from his travels, and in a roving lifetime, he has scoured the most exotic beaches of the world.
From family trees to a most original family seat, that of Mr. Jack Punter of Borden in Hampshire, seen here working on a concrete and stone crocodile, which is destined to be a garden ornament. Every part of the house was built by Jack in his spare time over a period of 6 years. To complete it, he spent 4 years making concrete out of rubble, collected glass for the windows from old pictures, wood for the sashes from old packing cases, and wood for window frames from an old shed. Do-it-yourself gone mad. "66-year-old Jack does nothing by halves, and to prove it, he doesn't just touch his toes. That would be too easy. The suppleness was partly achieved by ferrying 25 tons of sand in 200-weight bags by bicycle from a site half a mile away, not to mention the added chore of humping 6 tons of concrete, bucket by bucket, up a steep ladder to make the flat roof. Jack was advised against building the house by doctors because of his thrice fractured skull. First, a shell splinter in World War I, second, a motorcycle accident, and third, a fall of bricks. But it took more than that to stand in the way of this proud achievement. Truly, the house that Jack built. Mind you, bedsitter or mansion, any Englishman's home is his castle, and if one needed any proof, we met Mr. Sidney James, who's actually built a castle in his garden at Laindon, Essex. As you'll have gathered, he's done quite a lot of other building in the garden too. This castle is in fact a garage. The ornamental garden surrounding it has taken 8 years to build, and Mr. James, who is still adding to it, says he will probably never finish. Who says a woman's work is never done? The garden has nearly all been built from scrap materials. Stone from Waterloo Station, Charing Cross Hotel, and a bank in Bishopsgate, London have all been used here. No wonder they guard the Tower of London. Mrs. James is pretty proud of her husband, who, if you haven't already guessed, is a master builder. And don't think that the housework must get her down. With a wishing well on the spot, what's housework? The well, by the way, is made from a few of the 1,000-year-old stones of St. Dunstan's Church in Stepney. If you think the well's magic might help out on the windows too, that's wishful thinking. Wishy, in this case, doesn't go with washy. It's a stirring thought that when a lot of us are inclined just to dream, here's a man who doesn't need to build castles in the air. When a gardening enthusiast potters about on his little plot of land, time seems to stand still for him. But at the Bromley, Kent home of Mr. René Marchand, a Swiss watchmaker, time never stands still. And to remind him when he's at work in his front garden is the only private floral clock in England. And in fact, the only chiming floral clock. Resonant sound effects every 15 minutes during the day, Mr. Marchand turns them off at night to avoid disturbing neighbors, are relayed through a loudspeaker placed beneath and at the rear of the clock. The original effects come from an amplified master chiming clock in the garage and fed to the loudspeaker. Simple, yet original and fascinating. This is what has happened behind the scenes before passers-by stop in amazement at the sound of the quarter or hourly chime. Incidentally, another unusual aspect of this type of clock is that one can never grow tired of the same old clock face, for it changes with a blaze of color according to the season. Mr. Marchand constantly replacing plants as they die off, so that we have at least one face that never looks a day older. From boots in the bar to seashells on the seashore. And the agile gentleman collecting them here is Mr. Edwin Sutton, a beach warden, who must surely have the tidiest stretch of sand in the country. Have you ever heard of anyone who carried neatness this far? Certainly Mr. Sutton is conscientious, but he also has a use for the shells, making colorful flower designs in concrete to decorate his house and garden. Other requirements are a slab of rock, wet cement, a trowel, and a keen eye for color and design. When Mr. Sutton, an ex-landscape gardener, found that the soil was too sandy for the more delicate flowers and that even the more hardy ones were killed by salt spray, he refused to be beaten. and these completed pictures give some idea of what ingenuity and patience can achieve. Finishing touches with a paintbrush, and yet another original work is ready for, well, planting. How many gardeners can claim perennials as hardy as this? The delicate tracery of the shells, the fine design and harmony of colors may not bring overnight acclaim as a new art form, but it certainly adds color and gaiety to an otherwise barren garden.
Lots of people find hedge trimming a monotonous kind of job, yet with a little imagination like that used by Mr. Gunning of Chipping, Sudbury, Gloucestershire, it can be fun. In fact, Mr. Gunning, who's retired, has made this one of his main hobbies. For 14 years, he's been moulding and trimming bushes to shapes like this. His design depends on the way the bush starts to grow. A cigar completes this tribute to that great British personality, Sir Winston Churchill, who is as much a symbol of the British fighting spirit as these boxers.
Jeff's job is making scale model locomotives for British Railways, but his hobby is making tram cars, and he keeps travelling the country looking for trams which one day will exist no more, except on the 3.5-inch gauge track in his Crowborough garden in Sussex. Each tramcar, modelled accurately on one which was a familiar part of the scene in Edinburgh, Sheffield, a dozen of our cities, takes him approximately a year to make. But he can play with them for hours. What man couldn't? And what better qualifications could a man have for starring on the cinema screen alongside the artists we all admire? Perhaps you'll star in Pathy Pictorial one week, in control of your own particular dream. Each of Mr. Swift's models is a museum piece. There's a monthly magazine for model railway engine makers, and Jeff's written articles to convert his colleagues into spare-time tram making. He's made enough to tell the whole history of them, from 1901, when the first electric tram ran in London, to 13 years ago, when the last of them stopped. And he's got his eye on places like Blackpool, where elegant trams are running still.
Having seen the way modern materials and ideas help us in this bustling world, let's just see how they are used to produce something that we remember from childhood, the teddy bear. 77-year-old Mr. C.E. Palmer of Bradford-on-Avon, a retired lamp inspector for the railways, believes in keeping right up to date and creates teddies out of cement. They may not be as cuddly as the ones we remember, but try to pull the stuffing out of this fellow. After the cement has hardened, the bears are given a bath of coloured wash. By the way, there's no chance of buying these animals. Mr. Palmer is keeping them right here at home. There are 60 teddy bears in this school, representing 2 years' work for their creator. A bit young to go to school, perhaps, but teddy bears grow up fast. Besides, these Teds want more than a bear education.